the name of the podcast is Grit Won't Quit. And the idea behind that is we're going to have entrepreneurs on our podcast. We're also going to have teammates of Wingman's on the podcast. Wingman's also the owner of multiple businesses, which as time goes on, we will talk about those and how we started those and how we, used our same playbook of customer service and trying to do right by the customer to grow other businesses in totally different sectors. So, I think that for us in our small business local market, our service playbook works. When I look at the meaning of the word grit, it's, I think of a few things come to my mind. Resilience, working towards a goal that isn't immediate. And some days you don't know where that goal really is and what the exit strategy of that goal is. Passion and perseverance towards a goal. It's a mindset. It's determination and motivation. You need to be mentally tough. Like when you think about grit, you have to be mentally tough. If it's grit in business, if it's grit in athletics, when you think about being mentally tough, it's not easy. There's a lot of days that you wanna hang up the towel, you wanna quit, you wanna think about how much easier it would be if you worked, a 40-hour-a-week job versus most entrepreneurs that are out there hustling, growing their business, could be working 70, 80 hours a week. It's a work ethic. It's to think about the idea that, you're always on. When you're an entrepreneur, you're always on. There's very little downtime. Even when there's downtime, you're still thinking about something, or something's in your mind, or you're making a note on your phone, or you have a customer texting you. So, it's really a mindset and it's a work ethic. And I think you need to be mentally prepared if you go into this crazy world of entrepreneurship. I think when you look at entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs' journeys, grit is something that's very important. It's very hard to be an entrepreneur. There's some stats around that say that roughly 60% of businesses fail within the first year and 80% fail within the first 5 years. So the odds are stacked against you. When you're an entrepreneur, you got something really a little bit cuckoo in your brain because, with those kind of odds, why would you want to take them? But on the other side there's true fulfillment. You carry out a passion and a dream of, what that is in your business. And, I think that I got involved in I've been an entrepreneur all my life, but 15 years ago, roughly, I started my own business, a little bit more. I had this small company on Long Island, lihome411.com, and my idea was to match contractors that were looking for work with homeowners that were looking to have work done at their house. And, it's very similar if you know Angie.com or Home Advisors. It's very similar. It was a very localized site. I had bought my first home, and I was having trouble finding contractors, so I thought other people were probably having the same problems when they were thinking about doing work in their home. So I started this site while still working at a corporate job. This was before the word side hustle was a thing. It was kind of a after work and on the weekends kind of thing I did to start building this website. I'd never built a website. I was in marketing, I was in sales, but I never built a website. I'd never worked with developers, but I thought it was a good concept. And back 16 years ago, it was the time was right that people would stop looking at like the yellow pages and things like that, and they were using online services. As I got going with that, I met many contractors that were also looking for marketing help. They were looking for a website of their own. They were looking for trifold brochures. They needed help with their marketing and their messaging and their branding. And they would say to me, hey, can you help me with this? And can you help me with that? And, I tried to refer them to different vendors I was using with different people I had met along the way. And, sometimes the relationship wouldn't work because, I think that, part of being in account management and sales is really understanding and communicating with both, with all parties involved. And I think sometimes not all web developers are very good at speaking to the end user, the client. And so I just became the middleman, and I started to work with specific developers and specific people, and then I would work with the client to help them get whatever it is that they needed. And that's kind of how it evolved. When you look at LI Home 411 was around for 2 or 3 years. People started to ask me about other services, other companies that weren't contractors wanted to do work with me, and they were like, "Why am I paying LI Home 411?" And I was like, "That makes a lot of sense not to." I said, so it was time to come up with a new name, and I figured that Wingman represented for small business owners, coming out of a corporate background where you have marketing departments and you have teams of people doing work. A lot of small business people didn't have that. So my thought was I'd be their wingman. I would have their back. I'd be looking out for their marketing and for their technology needs. And, I thought that was a very fitting name at the time. And I still, to this day, love it. I have some customers that call me wingman. So my real name is Tom. But, I think it's a great name that represents the small business market that we work in. As Wingman started, I decided it was time to, quit my corporate job, and I was now on my own. So I went from having a guaranteed paycheck every week and my direct deposited into my account to that I, was going to do this on my own. I had great hopes that I would be successful, but I also realized I was a young guy. I was about 30 years old. I said if I fail, I will I'll go get another job. If anything, this is going to be a great learning and great experience, and I think it really was. I learned a lot. I learned how to deal with a lot of situations. You get thrown a lot of situations as a small business owner, especially in the early days, and especially when you've never dealt with those kind of situations. It becomes very challenging. Things that you think would be very easy sometimes become very hard. You're doing a lot of the work yourself. You're doing the work. You're the bookkeeper. You're the person who answers the phone. You're the account manager. You do everything. So when you don't have a team at the very early days and you're hustling, you just you have to just learn how to do it. And I think that's one of the things that I really am happy about, 15 years later, that I learned how to do a lot of stuff. And there are some things I never want to do again, and there's other things that, I'm very comfortable doing. And there's places where I think you hire out because you're going to get better results from someone that does this every day. And, even now in the wingman world, I'll say to a customer many times, do what you do best and let us handle the rest. Because, if you're not into the marketing and you don't know how to do it, it becomes very hard. And, people say, well, I could build a website, or I can, do my social media or advertising. Well, when you look at like Facebook and Meta, it changes daily. So if you're not staying up to date on the trends, yes, technically, could you do your own advertising? You certainly can. But are you getting the best bang for your buck and the best return on investment? I don't think you are, because you're not trained to do that. You're trained to do your craft, do your skill. So as we were growing, as we started out, I started out on the kitchen table. I was still living on Long Island when when Wingman came around, but shortly thereafter I moved to New Jersey. My wife said to me, I really would like to live in New Jersey. My family lives there, and blah blah blah. So we left Long Island and we headed out to the Jersey Shore. My wife has fond memories of when she was a child, going to the Jersey Shore, spending time, and it was a place that she really liked. And so we for a few weekends back and forth, we would drive down to the Jersey Shore, check out all the towns. I knew nothing about the Jersey Shore. After getting off the Verrazano and getting into Staten Island, that was like new territory for me, coming from Long Island. So over the next X amount of weeks, we toured Monmouth and Ocean County, finally settling in on Point Pleasant Beach, which is a great small town in Ocean County. At the time, again, I had a very small business, and we had, we just moved to New Jersey, so I didn't really know a lot of people. So it wasn't like I had leads coming in from friends or referrals or anything like that. I was working at our kitchen table, and I had the desire, the passion, the dream of being, the wingman for many customers, for many small businesses. And as time went on, I met somebody. I tried to do the best job we could for them. I tried to make them happy. I tried to accommodate them. I tried to be fair and reasonable with our pricing and our product and and everyone's expectations. And we started getting referrals, and we started getting a lot of referrals. And I met this guy, and he introduced me to this person, and he introduced me to that person, and it just kept expanding. So, when I got to New Jersey, one of the early things that I had done was I had actually ordered my wife flowers from a local flower shop in Toms River, Flowers by Adalia, and the following week or two, there was an article in the local town paper and talking about Flowers by Adalia, and I cold called Tom, and I said to him, "Hey, listen, I saw the article in the paper. You just recently delivered flowers to my wife for her birthday. I wanted to see if you wanted to sit down and talk about how maybe I could help you with your marketing." He was very into me coming in. I went into his store. We talked about some different things. We started out with some search engine optimization as well as some email marketing to get his business out to more people. And from there, Tom said to me, you really should think about joining the Brick Chamber of Commerce. I've been a member for years, and I think it's a great organization. There's a few hundred businesses, and those businesses could use a service like yours. As I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about friends and business owners that would be able to utilize your service. Well, I said to him, I don't know, Tom, if Chamber of Commerce are for me. I don't think that's where my target market is. Well, I was 100% wrong, and I've done a ton of business. I've done hundreds of jobs for members of the Chamber of Commerce. Many of them we still maintain their site from 10 years ago, 12 years ago. We still maintain the Brick Chamber of Commerce website, and we've made I've made some great friendships and business alliances with many of the members, and it's been a great organization. 2 years ago, we won Business of the Year for the Chamber. This year, we're going to be presented with the Brick Chamber Community Service Award, which goes to a business that does a lot in the community. As we get into this podcast, you'll learn that we give back a lot. We give back to where we where we work and live. 7-8 years ago, we made a commitment to the community. We started food drive, then we started a toy drive, and we've expanded upon that over the years now. So now I'm working at my kitchen table in Point Pleasant Beach. I'm trying to find customers. I'm trying to grow the business. I'm starting to learn additional things of what customers need. There's a lot of times when you start a business, you have a plan of what you're going to offer, what your service offering is going to look like, and what you're going to do for customers. And then there's times where customers tell you what they want. We started helping customers with print work because we did their website, and then they said, "Oh, can you make a flyer, brochure?" And then we started to do that graphic design work as well. If I look back, at our initial plans, it was never to really be in graphic design. But as time went on, it started to, the demand for customers wanting that. And, as we get further along, the same thing happened with social media. So, as I'm growing, I started to realize, I can't do this all by myself. There's going to need to be some additional help. I had a family friend who had just graduated college, and I had said to her, "Hey, if you'd like, I can offer you, 20 hours a week part-time to get started." I said, I have no employees. I don't really, I'm just really kind of getting rolling, and I think that we're going to need some additional help. I can start out with a part-time job, and we can go from there. She had just graduated college. She thought this was a good idea, and very quickly were we up to 40 hours a week. And then she said to me, "Listen, I'm working 40 hours a week. I think we got to find another part-time employee to kind of replicate, how I started." And we did that, and then that person went to 40 hours a week very quickly, because as I got freed up from doing all the administrative work, I was able to meet more customers. I was able to talk to more people. I was able to learn from prospective customers what they needed help with, and I was able to offer that service to them. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck with they can't spend money to hire people or can't invest in a team. But I think that was one of those things that was really important to me to start to figure out, because growing the team lets you grow your business. And it's a long-term play. And again, going back to grit, it's a very long-term play to start investing in people to do work for you, not knowing the result and not knowing what, that it's not a guaranteed outcome. But at the same time, if you trust the process, you trust yourself, I think it's a good move, because adding those members to the team early allowed me to go find more customers who needed my help and needed Wingman's help to help them grow their business, help them fulfill a need that they needed, as well as help grow our business, which in turn starting to let me invest more money to hire more people. And I go back about 8.5 years ago, and I'm neighbors with Tony from our who runs our web development team now. But at the time, she was looking for a new opportunity, and I had said to her if she was interested in working for Wingman. And so now we had 2 people at the kitchen table working during the day, and the idea was that Tony was going to help really start to be help with our websites and get them to the next level, and work on making process changes and design to the design, so that they're aesthetically more pleasing, and continue to better our product offering for our clients. And so Tony joined. She was my neighbor. She used to walk to work, and it was a team of 2 working at my kitchen table. At this point, I was living in Brick, so we started there. That's where she came on board, and then we can. When I first hired Tony, I said, I hope that you don't want to work in an office. I said, I'm very happy with the size of the company right now, and I think that this is where we're going to stay. I said, I don't really have plans to open an office or hire many more employees. I said, I think this is really going to be where this falls out. And then within like 3 months, we were moving to Brielle, and we were in an office, and we were looking to hire more people, and well as continue to do more work. And I think that's where when you look at grit, it is a lot to this, and you have to stick with it. You have to believe, and you kind of as the business starts to run, and you start to do better, and you get more customers, and you're growing your business, your ideas of where you want to take the business change too. And again, I think that's that perseverance, that entrepreneurial spirit of continuing to do better and better. But I think there's a balance of you got to keep your eye on the prize of making sure that your customers are happy today, but you have to start to plan out that longer term vision and how to get there and how to do it while making sure that your customers are happy today. Next week, we're going to continue from our early days to when we moved to Brielle Hills. I'm going to invite Tony, who's our director of development, on to talk about the early days, about when she came on, and how she saw the company and where we've gone. Really appreciate listening to this podcast. I hope to inspire young entrepreneurs. I hope to re-energize entrepreneurs maybe who have lost their spark out there. I look to educate and give you my perspectives from how things were. I mean, I made mistakes along the way, and I'd love to see people that can learn from my mistakes and get it right the first time. I think a lot of times when you're working for yourself, there's no playbook in the early days. Now, 15 years later, there is a playbook, and it's much easier to run. But like in those early days when you're trying to figure everything out, and a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, did it on a very low shoestring budget to get started. I'd love to be able to give a perspective to hopefully give you guys some encouragement and the idea of learning from things that I could have done better.